friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Megan, and today I'm going to be talking my August wrap-up. So this month was actually the month for newts, and if you don't know what newts are, they are the wizarding standardized tests, and you first have to take your owls, and then you have to take your newts. So G from Book Roast has created this readathon based around these two standardized tests. In the spring we do the owls, and then in the fall or in August we did the newts. So the readathons themselves are really awesome. Each book is one test or one grade on a certain subject. So for the owls, you actually chose a career and then you continued that career by completing your newts. And that is how you get to become the career. So for the newts, I chose to be a Hogwarts professor in the subject of care of magical creatures. And I'm so happy to say that I completed that task. So I'm just going to go through the books that I read for the newts first, and then I'll finish what are the rest of the books I read for August. Alright, so as a care of magical creatures professor, of course the first subject that I had to excel in was to get an O in the care of magical creatures subject, of course. So to obtain an O, I had to first get an A, and then get an E, and then get an O. So for A, it was in line with Aragog, which is a spider from Chamber of Secrets, and it was to read a book with the title that starts with A. For this, I chose A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This was actually a reread for me, and I read it as an audiobook. It was really enjoyable, but it was super cringy at parts knowing what happens in the next book, and it just makes me even more excited to pick up A Court of Wings and Ruin. The reason I reread this book before continuing and finishing the series is because I decided to buddy read the whole series with Luli from Luli Hernandez, and it was so much fun, and I'm super excited to hear her thoughts on it. So this I gave 5 stars and completed the A prompt for Care of Magical Creatures. The E prompt was to read a book under 300 pages, so for this I chose the manga of Ouran High School Host Club, and this was volume 4. This is a series about this girl who goes to the school and she dresses like a boy, and she stumbles upon this host club and she accidentally breaks a vase, a very expensive vase, while she's there, and she is forced to pay her dues by kind of being part of the host club, and it just feels like a bunch of short stories. And as I've stated in previous videos, I'm not a huge fan of short stories, but it is a cute little way to pass time, so I gave it 3 stars. And then my O for Care of Magical Creatures was to read a book with a bird on the cover, and for this I chose The Storm Crow by Kalyn Josephson, and I gave this 5 stars. This tells the story of Anthea, who all she wants to do is be a crow writer, but unfortunately a kingdom invaded theirs and took over and killed all of the crows, and in this world crows have elemental magic and all kinds of magic. They're really awesome. The storm crows control the weather. There's like gardening crows. I forget the technical terms or technical names of these crows, but there's ones that control the weather, there's ones that heal you, there's ones that control water, and it's really cool. But unfortunately, as I said, all the crows were destroyed in this invasion, and Anthea is forced to take action when she is betrothed to the prince of the invading kingdom. So the next subject that I had to take care of for this Care of Magical Creatures Hogwarts professor was to read 2 books and potions. I had to complete an A and an E. So the A prompt was to read a book with black under the dust jacket, and I chose Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I originally had The Wicked King as part of this, but I ended up switching to Heartless because I had an audiobook and I was on my last week, and an audiobook was just more efficient than trying to read a physical book in the last few hours or few days trying to finish these newts. So I switched to Heartless by Marissa Meyer, and under the dust jacket there is black, but there's also red, but we're gonna count it because there is black under here. So this is a retelling of the Queen of Hearts, and it tells the story of how she came to be so brutal and off with their heads. So it was a really good story. I really enjoyed this retelling. I gave it 5 stars, and it makes me super excited for the Winter Chronicles because those are also retellings by Marissa Meyer, and I'm just really excited to jump into those. And the next book in potions was to read a book that was the first one that came to your mind when someone talked about your TBR. So G in the announcement video said, alright, what's the first book from your TBR you can think of? And the first one I thought of was Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and I read this, gave it 5 stars. It was one of my favorite books of this month, probably second place I'd say, but I gave it 5 stars. As I said, it tells the story of Scarlett and Tella, and all they want to do is join this world of Caraval where it's a week-long performance that is exclusive. You have to have an invitation to go, and it's a nightly performance, and every year the performance is a game and you have to win the game to win the prize. But this year Scarlett is betrothed to a count, and so she no longer wants to go to Caraval, but she ends up getting tickets and she takes Tella, and when they get there, Tella is kidnapped, and the game of Caraval this year is whoever finds Tella first wins. And it was incredible. It had so many twists and turns that I was not expecting. I loved this book so much, and I cannot wait to pick up Legendary. The next book I had to read was for herbology, and it was the A prompt I had to read an audiobook. I chose The Hobbit by JRR Tolkien, and I actually read this twice this month. I read it as a physical, and then like a day or two later I read the audiobook, so I'm gonna count it twice. So I ended up giving the physical read about 4 or 4.5 stars. I can't remember exactly, but I really enjoyed it, and it makes me excited to get into the Lord of the Rings series now that I've completed my Harry Potter reread. So I'm going to be getting into the Lord of the Rings series this month, or this is the next series I'm going to be continuing with. So I'm super excited about that. However, the audiobook was so hard to follow. Like, I had it at 1x speed and I could not understand what people were saying at times, and it was just really confusing. If I hadn't read the physical book beforehand, there was no way I would know what was going on in this book. So physical copy was the 4.5 stars and audiobook was 3 stars, but it did complete my herbology prompt. And then the last book I had to complete my newts was for Charms, and that was to read a book with a beautiful cover, and this was my favorite read of the month and possibly my favorite read of the year or ever. This is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. It tells the story of Elizabeth, who was an orphan taken in by the Great Library, and it is her job to protect the grimoires. Grimoires are these books that have the ability to come to life, and they are so cool. Right now they're dormant, but one day a grimoire is stolen and she is framed, so she is on the journey to clear her name with her mortal enemy, Nathaniel Hawthorne, who is a sorcerer. There is demons, there is cats, there is enemies to lovers, there is books, there's libraries, there's books coming to life. Oh my goodness. The writing in this was incredible. The characters were incredible. The story was incredible. I loved this book so much. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So now on to the books I've completed for August that had nothing to do with the newts. I finished 6 other books. So the first book I finished was The Vanishing Star as an audiobook. This is by Maureen Johnson, and it is the sequel to Truly Devious. Truly Devious tells the story of Stevie Bell, who attends an academy for gifted students who go above and beyond. So we've got like scientists and authors and movie stars and film writers and all kinds of stuff, and these kids are so awesome. I love the scenery, I love the story. Truly Devious itself, I think I gave 3.5 stars, but The Vanishing Star I gave 5 stars. I completely enjoyed this so much more than Truly Devious, so I'm glad I continued the series, and I can't wait for the 3rd book to come out. Then I finished volumes 4, 5, and 6 of Dengeki Daisy, and in the beginning of Dengeki Daisy, I ended up giving them all 5 stars. However, after reaching volume 4, I decided to dock the stars on the initial reads because looking back, there's a lot of problematic things that I should have been more concerned about when reading this. So those weren't necessarily my taste. I don't know if they were problematic, but they definitely weren't my taste. So the first 3 volumes are definitely like a 3 or 4 star. Then I'd say it's 4 star, 4.5, 4.5, because in volumes 5 and 6, there is less of those issues, because it's just taking a different tone, which I really enjoyed, so I'm excited to continue the series. Then next, I finished Howl's Moving Castle as an audiobook. I've never read this story, but I have watched the movie. However, the book and movie are very different. I found the audiobook quite hard to stay focused on, so I think I missed a little bit of detail that was in the book, but it was definitely different than the movie. I definitely enjoyed the movie more, and I think I'm going to give the book about 3.5 stars. And then the last book, I technically finished today, but I read it throughout the entire month of August, and I forgot that this was September just because of the long weekend, so I'm just going to count it in August because I read everything but like 40 minutes of the audiobook. And that was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. As always, this is a 5-star read for me. Definitely cried when it got to the end and they said all was well, because it's just such a nostalgic thing for me and I just love this book. So yeah, I'm super excited to watch the movie. If you don't know, I've been rereading the series 1 book a month for the past like 7 months, I guess, and after each book, I watch the movie, and I think the next time I do that, I'm going to do a book to movie review for each story or each book, and I think that'd be fun, but for now, I'm just excited to watch Deathly Hallows. So that was my monthly wrap-up. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments below how your month went and what books I read this month that were your favorites, if you read any of them. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will check in with you in my next one. Bye, friends.